What's up? You are at Kicking It with Kia. Ha ha ha. Forgot what the name of my show was. So, like I said before, I hate doing videos at home, but I have a ton of stuff to do today with a bunch of client work, and I won't be in my car until a lot later. And I wanted to get my thoughts out about a couple of things. So we're just gonna do it in my office for the first time. Very excited about this. So I wanted to talk about the Iyanla Van Zant Fix My Life video with Hazel E. Um, this was really, really interesting for me for multiple reasons, and I'm going to go through all of that. But the video, the episode, kind of goes to Hazel E and how the comments she made on social media about dark butts and dark skinned women, and just kind of her lashing out. Most of us who watch Love and Hip Hop, because that's where Hazel E is from, know she was talking about her co-stars, but the way it came off really nasty and really dark. I mean, I didn't mean to say dark like that, but really dark and really awful and just nasty for absolutely no reason. But once you watch the episode with Hazel, you learn that she has a lot of issues because she was sexually abused by two women who were dark skinned who actually had her perform sexual acts on another child, which is horrific on multiple levels. Instead of going through the episode, I'm kind of going to talk about a couple of things that it made me think about and it made me feel because I've had colorism issues, but mine, for some people, little kids, it happens, for some people, it happens when they were kids in elementary school or, with cousins or whatever. Mine didn't happen until college. So I will go through all that. So let's just talk about the number one thing. We have got to start talking about female sexual attackers. It is not talked about enough. It needs to be talked about more. It happens, and it's almost like if it's a woman, it gets swept under the rug, and that is not okay. We've seen it in with the high school stories where a female teacher is abusing a high school boy, and it's always made comments like, "Oh, well, the boy liked it. I mean, he probably loved it. An older woman, more experienced woman, he probably had a great time." Blah blah blah. That's not the point. And that's not okay. And we don't know that. We're all assuming. And even with the female teachers, they're treated completely different than the male teachers. The male teachers are shunned, put in the sex offender registry. They are forced to may possibly be in jail for years and years. The female attackers who do the same thing as the male teachers aren't really treated that harshly, and it's kind of always made an excuse, or maybe she was this, or maybe she was abused and this and that. And it's never taken as seriously. It should be taken just as seriously, and female sexual attackers exist, and we need to start talking about it more. And yes, sometimes it's a vicious cycle where the woman who is sexually attacking another child has had it herself, and it just continues over and over again, but it still needs to be discussed and examined, and so we can stop it from happening. No kid should have to go through that, especially from a woman. And the reason why I feel like coming from a woman is 5 times worse, because as women, as little girls, we're taught our mommies and our aunties and the older women who look like us and have what we have are going to protect us and keep us safe and love us no matter what. The boys might need to stay away from, but the women, we are never ever taught that. We are always taught that a woman is going to keep us safe and protect us. So to have a woman sexually assault you, that has to take away everything in your being, everything you trusted about yourself, everything you've known, and that's crushing. So, I definitely need to be a part of conversation. Number two, Hazel E's mom, when Hazel E brought up the sexual assault that she went through with the two ladies who were watching her when she was 5, her mom looked at her like, we weren't supposed to talk about this in public. Like, she kind of just looked like completely caught off guard. And the mom kind of had to backpedal a little bit and didn't really know what to say, because as a mom, you don't want to admit your child was sexually assaulted. As a mom, you don't want anybody to know that you left your child vulnerable, whether of course it was on accident, but you don't want anybody to know that. And I know it's not something she wanted to discuss, but keeping things in the dark meaning they never ever get healed. And things like that absolutely have to get healed because you carry them throughout life. And she clearly has carried this damage throughout life. And I hate to say that, but it kind of is the mom's fault for not getting her the therapy she needed, letting her speak about it, letting her have the conversation she needed to have. That's the mom's fault. And she's not the first mom who's done this. I mean, moms, in my mother's age, in their 50s, and 60s, were taught like something like that. You don't make a big deal out of. You just handle it and make sure it never happens again, and you keep your child close to you and protect it, and you just keep it moving. But that's not really how things get healed. So I feel like her mom needed to take a little bit more responsibility, and I'm glad that Iyanla got her to apologize, and not for the sexual assault that happened, but for her saying, I apologize for you thinking that I may not have wanted you or for this and that. And that apology kind of had a whole blanket experience for Hazel E. Number three, the other thing I wanted to bring up, why wasn't the other tweets brought up? Did anybody else notice that? Drop in my comments and ask that, because she had other tweets that was very homophobic and disgusting, and those weren't talked about. And maybe they stuck on the colorism thing with Black women because it is a big issue and it is something that happens a lot with Black women. But I feel like that homophobic tweet was just as bad, if not worse. I mean, she basically said all gay people are going to hell, but then said she supports the LGBT community. And it's like, you can't have it both ways. It can't be going to hell and you support them. Are you supporting them going to hell? That doesn't make any sense. So I was kind of confused about why that wasn't brought up, because I feel like that's another really strong conversation that probably needs to be had. Number four, I'm counting down, so crazy. Another thing is, a lot of people were saying, well, just because these two Black women did this to her, it doesn't mean she needs to hold it through her entire life. And we don't blame white people for slavery. And it was a bunch of silliness on Twitter and social media about how, oh, this happened to you, but you can't hold it and blame all Black women for it or all dark-skinned women for it. People don't understand how scarring sexual assault is. It is life-changing. I have friends, I have family members. This happens and it scars you. I have a cousin. I'm going to get in so much trouble if my mother ever sees this, but I have a cousin whose name I won't mention. It happened to her. It seemed like nobody in our family really believed her. I didn't find out the story until after the fact, and it fucked her up. Like, I'm sorry for cussing like that, but it's true. It messed her up. She's now in her late 40s and she's never been the same. She's completely changed, and she just never got over it. And I think a part of she never got over it because, no one ever believed her, but it changed her. These types of things change you. You can get stabbed, you can get shot. Yes, it doesn't affect you, but not like somebody sexually violating you. It really does change you. And that's why she hasn't gotten over it. And that's why when she sees dark-skinned women, she sees something angry and violent and awful and hurtful and painful. It sucks, but I understand why she feels that way. I think I'm on number five. Number five, having her, this is funny, having Hazel E read them lyrics, those lyrics are awful. Hazel E is not an artist to me. She's not a musician. She's not an entertainer. She's not a singer. She's just someone who I feel like wants to find an easy way out and entertain, rhyming some words together like Dr. Seuss seems like the easiest way to do. But having her read those lyrics in front of those pictures of iconic Black women was hilarious and sad at the same time. And it's not just Hazel E who has the lyrics like this. Nicki Minaj, imagine her reading Anaconda in front of, these same Black icons. It would be the same thing, but it was funny because it really was awful. It was so awful. It just felt just bad, just wrong all the way around. But it was funny. At the end, they had Hazel E, who, by the way, on the last final scenes came out dressed like a militant Black Panther member. I'm not sure why she was dressed like that. It seemed almost like she was trying to dress the part of what she was supposed to be. It didn't make any sense. The outfit was just the beret, the all Black, but it's see-through, but it's tight, but it's leather. It was just a lot going on. And I just didn't feel like it was appropriate for what they were trying to do. But when they had that final scene and they had other dark-skinned women come out and tell their experiences and see how the light-skinned women go through things and the Black girls go through things and how they're not listening to each other, it brought up some things in me. So this is the part where I'm going to talk about my stuff. I didn't realize that I had a skin color, as dumb as that sounds, for majority of my life. Like, I grew up in a majority Black city, St. Petersburg, Florida. Anybody who watches Real Housewives of Atlanta, Marlo Hampton's from my same city, different parts of town though. And no one ever talked about color. My cousins all pretty much looked like me. They were all the same skin tone. All my friends looked like me. We were all the same skin tone. There weren't a lot of light-skinned girls. There were dark-skinned girls, but we didn't realize they were dark. Nobody made fun of each other because of color. It wasn't until I had an incident in high school. I went to the movies with this boy and my cousin and another person. And the boy called me Redbone. And I was like, what? Really? I'm Redbone? And it was kind of a compliment because I guess he was calling me light-skinned. So I didn't know what it meant, but I was like, oh, that must be a compliment. Oh, wow, that's so cool, whatever. And it never fazed me ever again. It wasn't until I got to college that I realized that, Black dark-skinned girls and light-skinned girls were like a whole, the way they treat in college at Florida A&M University, were like these two different species of people. And I had no idea, you know. I would hear comments about, oh yeah, she's cute for a dark-skinned girl. You know, she's got really good hair for a dark-skinned girl. Oh, that light-skinned girl over there, I'm gonna go holler at her. That light-skinned girl, this and that. I would hear these comments. And then when it came to the sororities, because I am not in a sorority, my stepmother isn't really wanting me to pledge, but it's just not my thing. It's not a thing for a lot of people. And I remember people specifically saying, dark-skinned girls are deltas, light-skinned girls are AKAs. And that always stuck to me, and it actually became something that I started repeating. And at this point in my life, it sounds so stupid and so ignorant, but it's something I learned in college. I'm like, oh, well, this just must be the rule that I don't know about. I don't know a lot about HBCUs. This is my first HBCU experience. You know, whatever. Who knows? It didn't even stop there with the colorism thing. My parents came to the school to move me in, and a lot of people were looking at my mom and dad weird. My parents aren't married. So my stepmom came as well. But a lot of people were looking at my dad and my mom weird, and my stepmom, because my dad is very, very light skinned. And I'm not talking about he's a little light. I mean, my dad could have passed back in the day. That's how light skinned my father is. My grandmother's the same way, very, very light. My mother is dark skinned, very dark. And I didn't know any of this until I got to college, until someone else had made a comment about it. And people were like kind of looking at my mom like, oh, how did she get him? I was like, what are they talking about? And as a grown woman now, I kind of feel stupid and almost sheltered because I didn't notice that. I just thought, these are my parents. My dad's a different shade. Who cares? Like, it just didn't faze me. So college really showed me a lot about what colorism is and what it was like to be a different shade. The nail in the coffin for me for the colorism thing, you know, and this just all, it still to this day kind of makes my mom really emotional and upset. It doesn't bother me that much anymore. But my mom and my brother came to visit me at FAMU. It was my freshman year. It was like the first time my mom had come see me after, I think it was right after the holidays, and I had just gotten back. My mom wanted to come up with my brother. And I was like, oh, well, there's this really cool lecture that they're doing at the lecture hall about, you know, African Americans. And mom was like, oh, that's so cool. So I also took my cousin, who's my play cousin, Dory, and I took her with me, and my mom and my brother came. So we all go in together. And as soon as we walk through the door, a girl taps me on the shoulder and moves me to the left, taps my brother on the shoulder and moves me to the left, and moves my mom and Dorian to the other side of the room. And my mom and I were like, okay, they're doing something. Maybe it's a contest. Like, we're stupid. So we go and sit down. They start lecturing in conversation. I'm still not noticing what's going on in front of me or on the other side of the room. I'm just like, okay, we're just listening. And I'm making jokes to my mom, waving at her from across the room, and she's making faces, and we're just playing around. Until they said, you all didn't notice that you all have been separated by your skin color. I was like, what are you talking about? And I, again, still didn't notice. They actually, without anybody noticing, had used a paper bag as a test to separate us by skin color based on the paper bag test. So if you were lighter than a paper bag, you went on this side of the room. If you were darker than a paper bag, you went on the other side of the room. And at that moment, it really hit me and my brother, you know, and it kind of makes me emotional thinking about it, because I remember sitting there thinking, you know, I'm different from my mom. And I had never, sorry, I had never thought about being different from my mom. I've always thought that I was exactly like her, and I was a splitting image of her, and my personality comes from her. So to be separated from her based on color, it was just so weird for me, and it was so hurtful. It was hurtful for my mom too. And I know FAMU didn't do it on purpose. They were trying to prove a point, and it was a good point. And the lecture, I don't even remember what the rest of the lecture is. I just remember thinking, she's my mom, and I'm so far away from her, and she's on the other side of the room, and I don't know why. And I'm her daughter, and I love her, and I don't know why she's on the other side of the room. I just kept thinking that over and over again. And that's always like really still affected me, you know. And people make comments to this day about, you know, my mom being dark skinned. My mom even makes comments. She's like, but I'm dark skinned and this and that. And I'm like, I always ignore her and just make a joke like, oh, you're not dark skinned, you're just annoying. That's what the problem is. And she'll laugh and we'll keep going. But, you know, I kind of feel lucky to an extent that I got to go that long in my life up to college without having to worry about color and being dark skin or light skin or medium tone or whatever, because it never affected me and my parents had never let it affect me. My dad is super duper light skin. He never let it affect me. My stepmother is my tone or maybe a little bit darker than me. And my little sister is darker than me. My dad has never let it affect him. I know some light skinned people, think it's prettier, this and that. They make comments about their kids, but my dad was never like that. And I appreciate that. My whole DC family is light skinned and no one's ever made a comment about it. So I feel lucky. But people like Hazel E aren't that lucky to have family and friends like that in her life. And she's had awful experiences, and it's sad. And I hope that she takes this lesson and really uses it and understands that all skin tones are beautiful, all Black women are beautiful, and even with the way she looks, I hope she changes it. The blonde hair, the nose, the skin color, it's all light is right. And that's not the case. And, one more thing, even in my marriage, a lot of you have seen my husband, but you guys seen him, and a lot of my followers, you guys have seen him in the dark. My husband's Guyanese, which basically means he's Indian, he's West Indian, he's Hindu. And when I first got with him, the colorism thing kind of struck me again, because all the girls he had dated, even his ex-wife, is Indian. So long dark hair down to her butt, lighter than me. All the Indian Guyanese girls, they all look the same. They're beautiful girls. We've all seen them. We've all seen Priyanka Chopra, which, by the way, he's addicted to her. He's so annoying. But that's what I wanted to be. So I bought long wigs and, did my makeup a specific way because I wanted to look as Indian-centric as possible for my husband. It wasn't until marriage counseling where I talked about it with my aunt, because who was our marriage counselor and who married us. It wasn't until I had that counseling with her and my husband that I realized that my husband was like, why would you do that? What are you talking about? I don't care about that. I actually like your natural hair. I wish you would wear your natural hair more. I wish you would let it grow out more. You can have a really cool afro and your hair probably needs to breathe. He said, your hair probably needs to breathe. And this is a guy who knows nothing about Black hair. He's very knowledgeable now, but he was like, your hair probably needs to breathe. And I don't like all the makeup. I don't like any of that. You're Black and you're tall. That's what I like. And it just made me realize how stupid I was being, and I changed a little bit. Now, don't get me wrong, I still wear my wigs. We all seen it. I still wear my makeup, but it's not something that I'm using to have my husband care about me, like me, feel attracted to me, or identifying me. I wear what I want, when I want, how I want it. Everybody who's seen my channel sees I wear wigs when I want to wear wigs. I switch my wigs up all the time. So, this Iyanla Van Sant really just kind of brought a lot out of me and really showed me a lot about myself and who I am. And I really hope that Hazel E changes who she is and realizes that she's been given a great opportunity. So that's my story. I hope you enjoyed it. I liked this episode. Looking forward to the next one. Looking forward to the next video. Maybe I'll do it in my office. Not really sure. But until next time, have a great day.